Join us on the program right now of the Washington Free Beacon. Mr. Lachlan Marquet is with us. Lachlan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, Cam?
I am good. While Mayor Bloomberg is going after elevators, he has not turned away from firearms. And
Right.
in fact, you're reporting the taxpayers of New York City are going to help finance Mayor Bloomberg's gun control agenda.
Yeah, that's right. So I happened to find myself at the Center for American Progress's conference in downtown D.C. the other day, and one of the sessions was sort of, how young people can aid in the fight against gun violence and so on. One of the people who was speaking there was a top aide to both Mayor Bloomberg and to his group, Mayors Against Illegal Guns. And she sort of laid out the legislative agenda going forward with respect to, sort of pushing members of Congress and state legislators to enact new restrictions. The whole time I'm sort of thinking, well, this woman is an employee of the city of New York. She's drawing a paycheck from New York taxpayers. So, so I wrote that up today, and yeah, it's making quite a splash.
It is. Listen, this is not really unusual for the mayor. I mean, as a matter of fact, Mayor Bloomberg and Mayors Against Illegal Guns trying to do this around the country by putting regional gun coordinators with Mayors Against Illegal Guns in city halls in places
Right.
like, Columbus, Ohio, Lewiston, Maine, Seattle, Washington. Imagine, Lachlan, if you had similar measures by the NRA, where the NRA was going around and, hey, look, we want to have your regional Second Amendment coordinators in city halls just to ensure that, the Second Amendment rights of residents are being respected by these cities. And we want to work with the city in order to generate opportunities where folks can safely and responsibly exercise their Second Amendment rights. Can you imagine the spittle-flecked outrage by people like Piers Morgan?
Right, or imagine if, for instance, an aide to Speaker Boehner was, moonlighting as a lobbyist for the NRA or something like that. You have a tax, someone who draws her salary from taxpayers doing lobbying work on behalf of an interest group. And it doesn't really matter what the merits of that interest group's positions are. The fact is that you have taxpayers paying for a lobbying campaign. So that raises all sorts of ethical questions. Certainly the people I spoke with said, this is totally improper. You need to have a pretty bright line there. But, this woman is, she has two titles, one for the mayor's office and one for this group that she's lobbying for. So, there is no line there. The mayor's office has become a de facto lobbying force for gun restrictions.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I know you quote John McCarthy, a New York City Hall spokesman, who emailed you a statement. The mayor's top priority is keeping New Yorkers safe, and that includes seeking sane gun laws in other states in D.C. to help reduce the flow of illegal guns to New York. Now, look, if that's the justification, Lachlan, we've got an obligation to keep New Yorkers safe. Therefore, we can get involved in anything, because New Yorkers could leave New York City and things could come in from from outside of New York City to New York City. So we've got carte blanche to do anything we want with taxpayer funds.
Yeah, and you could you could apply that to just about any proposal.
Absolutely.
And that essentially gives the mayor, as you say, carte blanche to use public funds, to use taxpayer funds to advance his own political preferences, and not in the arena of policymaking. Obviously, he's free to do whatever he wants to do under the purview of the powers that are vested in him as mayor, but to use his position to act as a lobbying force for an interest group is, you saw things like, when the president wrote his stimulus package, it contained explicit prohibitions on any of the money being used to lobby for any law or additional measure at the state, local, or federal level. This is a widely recognized ethical conflict, even among people on Mr. Bloomberg's side of the aisle.
Absolutely. Now, do you think anything is done about this, Lachlan? Is there even any outrage outside of, let's say, the government watchdog and government ethics groups?
There's not, and this wasn't the first time that this sort of activity was exposed. Just a month or two ago, it came out that the website for Mayors Against Illegal Guns is hosted on New York City servers, web servers. So, again, it's city property being used to advance an interest group. And it sort of made a buzz for an afternoon, and, Twitter was all a Twitter about it. But the next day it was just back to business as usual. As far as I know, the website is still being hosted by the city, and they just keep pouring more resources into this effort. So, I think it's a problem when much of the press sort of agrees with the objectives of the group. You're inevitably going to see sort of less scrutiny of their methods, I think.
Well, absolutely. And, look, I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, if you're in New York City and people aren't, freaked out about Anthony Weiner being one of your, main mayoral candidates and Elliot Spitzer
Right.
deciding to return to office, you're probably not going to get really incensed about, Mayor Bloomberg's gun control group's, websites being hosted on city servers. Like, that's probably not going to really get you incensed. Where I do think, though, they run into trouble, we just mentioned Colorado, these recall elections that a judge says can go forward. Mayor Bloomberg was sort of banking on the idea of using his billions of dollars to spread his mindset across the country. And as it turns out, outside of New York City, there are an awful lot of people who don't give a rat's patootie what Mayor Bloomberg thinks about any issue. And it doesn't really matter how much money he spends and how much you saturate the airwaves, because it's coming from Mayor Bloomberg. People are automatically predisposed to not like it.
Yeah, well, what you'll probably see is, I know one of the things that is in my report in terms of the lobbying activities that are going to be going on in the next few months is, when members of Congress are back home in August, they're going to have people showing up at town hall meetings and, sort of grilling members who either voted against Manchin Toomey or praising ones who voted for it. I'm sure you remember that round of town hall meetings, shortly after the bill failed.
Yeah.
Clips from that were aired far and wide on, every major television station, YouTube clips circulating and all that. So, it doesn't have to be the mayor out there pushing this stuff. It'll appear as if it's, John Doe, concerned citizen who's asking his legislator, these pressing questions. So, that I think is where it could actually have an impact.
Interesting. All right, Lachlan, really appreciate your time this afternoon, sir, and hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks a lot, Cam. We'll talk to you later.
You bet. Lachlan Marquet joining us of the Washington Free Beacon.